What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday morning live stream. I got the contest working. It was acting a little strange, so if you didn't enter or you need to enter, go ahead and try again. We are giving away a $50 gift card again to anywhere you want, like we did last week. So that's going to be the contest today. We have a very special guest and also another guest that's not as special, but we do have a very special guest. I love when we have subscribers on as guests. And guys, by the way, if you ever want to come on a stream, just hit me up on Facebook, show me your automation, show me something that you can show us off on a stream, and I'd love to have you guys on my stream. So today we got Mr. Don Martin. And he is crazier than I am when it comes to automation. So I'm very happy to have him on. So let's bring him in. Oh, his name went haywire, but there's Don. Hey, Don, how's it going?
Doing all right. How are you?
He's right in front of
It's just covering up Aaron.
That's awesome. That was not intentional, I promise.
I'm sure it wasn't. Just wanted to cover my face up.
What's going on, Don? Welcome to the live stream. It's good to have you, buddy. Don's got all kinds of crazy stuff, man. Someone had mentioned my glasses. Yeah, I'm not wearing glasses today because I'm getting trolls not liking the glare in my glasses, so I figured whatever.
Glare was killing me, Derek.
I'll appease the trolls. Yeah. So, Don, tell us a little about you. Tell us about your years in the hobby. You know, the normal, basic questions, and ignore whatever Aaron says.
Check. All right. So, yeah, I've been reefing since almost 20 years now. Just about 15 years. Had many tanks over the years. Started out with a little 29 gallon and just kind of slowly worked my way up. My most recent tank's only been running for just shy of 3 months.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty young. I had a really, we'll talk about the ugly. I had a really bad aptasia and vermidid snail infestation in my last tank.
Oh,
and so I just got to the point where it's like, you know what, I'm done. So I tore everything down I had. I shut the whole system down, and I just wanted to kind of start fresh and start new. So I was originally going to do an 8x4x4 with Bill, but that didn't materialize. So I ended up setting up the tank that's behind me. It's a 10 feet long, and 3 feet tall and 30 inches deep. A good friend locally, it's about 600 gallons. A good friend of mine locally was shutting down and moving, and it just kind of worked out. So I took a window out of the side of my house and we brought it down the stairs.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, I got a 300, and I had to replace it twice. So I've had it. The first tank I had was about, I want to say 13 years ago, and then it started to bow and really, really, really badly bow. It was just not a very well-made tank. So we literally had to rip everything out. Rip out the whole tank. I remember doing it. It was an absolute nightmare. The glare from the swords is killing me. So yeah, we had to rip it out, move it out the backyard, bring a whole new tank in, and then we had to do it again because we had a flood. But man, yeah, putting in tanks is not fun, especially when you got to rip out windows and all that fun stuff.
For sure.
So, what was I gonna say? So, he's got a lot of stuff going on. I'm gonna show off your Apex really briefly right now, and we'll
Okay.
go over kind of the basic stuff that you've got going on. But I just want people to see kind of what we're talking about here. People have seen my Apex and they're like, "Whoa!" Well, um, yeah, he's got a lot of stuff, guys.
Wow. I thought yours was crazy.
Yeah.
I think I'm over 80 outlets now.
Oh my God.
I also run, 3-4 systems off of it technically, right?
Yeah.
I've got my core quarantine system, which is oddly enough in my bathroom in the basement.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I've got my fish quarantine system. I've got a frag tank, and then the main display.
Yeah. Well, I'm running, yeah. Terrence, of course, gets on my case all the time about this, but I'm running 3 tanks off of one Apex. I've never found the need to have 3 separate Apex. It just causes me more headache to have to switch
Yeah.
apps and switch, to different. I just can't do it. Um, Brock B, I gotta say this. In all seriousness, I feel bad for Aaron. He doesn't deserve the flack. Yes, he does, and you shouldn't feel bad for him. You know how much free stuff
I
he
thank
gets
you
from
for
me,
feeling
Brock?
bad for me.
um, but anyway, so tell us before we get into some specifics about. I have a bunch of questions. Tell me about some of the cooler things you're doing. Give me like 2 or 3 really interesting automation things you're doing. And we name this stream today. Are you a lazy reefer? Because from what you told me, you are the epitome of lazy reefer. So tell me some reasons that we would
Yeah.
consider you a lazy reefer.
So yeah, really it boils down to I don't like to do things manually. In fact, I've found that if I leave it up to be manual, then it doesn't get done. Or it doesn't get done as often as it should. So, I got all the, the regular toys, the running my Trident, measuring my parameters. I've got a big skimmer, and that big skimmer runs directly to a drain on my house. It's straight out to to the sewer. It's got wash down system inside of it, so it actually sprays down the neck and cleans out the cup a couple of times a day, just to keep things clean, so I don't have to mess with it. But one of the things I love is how I dose my calc. And we can talk more detail about it in a bit, but I dose Kalkwasser on a constant drip.
Okay.
I've done it for years, and I love how it works with the calcium reactor. But what the way it's set up is it runs. I've got a big reactor that's got a pump that circulates once every 2 hours, and then it's programmed to monitor pH, so that if my pH gets over 8.6, it actually stops dosing calc, and
Oh wow.
so I don't drive the pH way too high. And then it also, when the pump runs, I've got a virtual outlet that actually stops the dosing. I dose it with a peristaltic pump, and it actually stops the dosing for 30 minutes while
wow.
that's settling out. Otherwise it doses really high intensity strength calc water to the tank.
Oh, I'm sure. So, silly question, but I think you kind of
Yeah.
answered it already. I noticed no corals in the tank. But you
There's
said you have a
there's a
frag
few.
tank or something, right?
Yeah,
So
I do.
of course the question is, I realize you're setting it up for the future, but why all this
Mhm.
stuff right now if you have nothing to really, I don't know how to put it. You don't have a lot of consumption, right? I presume. So
So
how's that all
believe it or
working out?
not, I actually, so the corals, the frag tank's got quite a bit in it. The frag tank is 4 feet by 30 by 12. So there's a decent amount of consumption in there right now. In fact, I've maxed out about how much calc I can dose in the tank now without the
Okay.
calcium reactor running. Once the calcium reactor starts running, and injecting more CO2, that'll bring the pH down a little bit. And I'll be able to dose more calc. So, but you'd be surprised how much consumption I go through, even just with the frag tank. there's a couple of corals in here, right? There's this guy here. It's hard to see, but it's a pretty good sized green SPS there. And honestly, I'm already growing coralline like crazy in the display.
That's probably
so that
why
starts
your
to suck it
consumption.
up.
Yeah, that's probably where all your consumption's going.
Yep. So one of the things I did with this tank is I started with mostly dry rock, but I wanted to have a presence of real live rock, so I actually went and got 100 pounds of ocean real live rock from KP Aquatics. I don't normally do that, but let me tell you, it's been a game changer in this system.
I'm sure
it makes a big difference because every time I've started dry, it just takes forever for the system to mature, right? It's much better this time around. And so the Kalkwasser works really well, particularly when you start running a calcium reactor, because the way the chemistry of Kalkwasser works is it actually, when you dose it, it actually consumes CO2 in the tank to create carbonate and calcium, right? So it's actually kind of a match made in heaven. And I don't know why everybody doesn't do it when you're running a calcium
well,
reactor.
We're going to discuss that in a bit of why.
Sure.
Looking at some of the comments. Coralline, for those that don't know, consumes a ton. I mean, when you start growing coralline, like in my tank, even in my fish-only tank, I have tons and tons of coralline. Now, in that tank, I don't really care that the consumption's going because I don't have any corals in there. But, man, my reef tank, the whole back wall and the sides are full of it now. I've had my tank for a little bit over a year now, and holy cow, the consumption just goes skyrocket. And not to mention I have a gigantic clam and a ton of SPS. But the point I'm making is if you have no corals in there and you're growing coralline, yeah, you're definitely going to need to dose. If you want, of course, keep the coralline alive. I mean, some people don't.
My last tank, my coralline was actually plating and growing and flaking off.
That's
it was
nuts.
insane.
So I wonder what video game Aaron's playing. That's what everyone's asking what video game you're playing.
I'm not playing any video game. I'm actually I was first off, I was doing stuff to try to get. I donated to your stream, because that's got to do that, right?
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
And then I was
gonna say something,
getting a text message on my phone.
I ignored it for just a second. Thank you, Desert Reef Aquatics, for donating your money, your hard-earned money, to our stream. I appreciate it. And Battle OCR, thank you very much also for the super chat. I really appreciate it.
I see somebody mentioned
I was playing Truck Simulator. Damn, Brock figured it out. God darn it.
Yep, trucking simulator.
He figured out that I was playing that trucking simulator. Jeez.
Yeah. So let's talk about.
Little does he know that I'm actually playing the reefing simulator.
Oh God, you playing a reefing simulator, everything's gonna die. I mean, that's just gonna happen if you're playing a reefing simulator.
Already died. What are you talking? Think I could last a couple minutes with the reef? Jeez.
So Aaron came by the way, guys, and gave me my hydros back. So now I have it. So hopefully we'll get some really good hydros videos out now. Also, he got tons of corals. I threw this out to all of the subs and the people here in Arizona that I had tons of corals to give away, and Aaron's the only one that came. I don't know what to tell you guys. So Aaron got a ton of. I mean, how many corals did I give you? I gave you a ton, dude.
Somewhere upwards of 20 different pieces of frags of coral.
Yeah. So you snooze, you lose is all I gotta say. Aaron honked the horn. So we're gonna discuss a little bit about something I really wanted to talk to you about, because I used to have a calcium reactor, as some of you know, by someone you guys all maybe know. It was an ACR. It's made by, what's his company? Aquarium Engineering, right? I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want him coming after me again. But the Aquarium Engineering automatic calcium reactor. It cost me, I believe at the time, $1,500, right? Very, very expensive, guys. My experience, which I've went over plenty of times, I'm not going to go through it, but I had tons of issues with it, and I said I'm done with calcium reactors. I'm just going to go back to dosing. So I went back to dosing, and I've been using Aquaforest 123 for for 8, 9 months now, and my tank is doing fantastic. However, as I'm sure most of you experience, I'm going through this stuff like water. Like I'm going through it. I'm buying it every week now. I'm putting it in my tank all the time. I have so much consumption. Um, I think I'm at like 200 milliliters a day of this stuff, like ridiculous amount. And it's not cheap. I think it's like $80 or something for the package, and it lasts me a week. So we're talking easily $300 to $400 a month I'm paying for this stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to get a calcium reactor. So I went and got a Geo's calcium reactor. Hasn't come yet. I know Geo takes a little while to make them, but I'm really excited to go back to the calcium reactor. So here's my question for Don, and this is kind of going into my Kalkwasser conversation, is when I had a calcium reactor, even though my ACR was a absolute pile of crap, my pH really went low, like to 7.6, 7.5. And I, at the time, got a Kalkwasser stir, and it wasn't helping. And my question for you, and my question for everyone that uses calc, and the confusing part for me, is how do you do it? Because if you don't have the amount of evaporation, right, using it on your auto top off isn't going to do anything. And my concern has always been when you're using calc, if you're dosing it a certain amount, how do you know how much to dose without it being too much and then your salinity goes up? So that's what I don't know. I've always wondered, and I'm glad I have you on. How do you figure that out? You know?
So I'll be very honest. For me, it's trial and error. There's no good calculation that I've ever run across. What I normally do is the biggest thing for me is that I run a peristaltic pump that is set to a constant speed. You could use the Kamoer. I use Cole Palmer. I use medical grade, peristaltic, very like 0 to 100 RPM. You can really dial them in, adjustable pumps. And I make small adjustments. And if I see, when I'm starting my tank up, if I see that, consumption's going up and my levels are going down, I just bump up the calc reactor. And I keep bumping it up until, my pH starts to get too high. And then I kind of let that settle in. And then I take my calcium reactor. Once I get past the point that Kalkwasser can maintain the tank, then I bring the calcium reactor in. And I set the pH usually pretty high, 6.8, 6.7, not crazy. And I let it ride there, and then I watch it for a couple of days, and you're going to see that your pH is going to come down a little bit because now it's injecting more CO2 into the tank. So then once that starts to come down, I slowly turn my calc reactor back up until consumption is where it needs to be. It's a constant dance. But once the system is pretty established and where it needs to be, we're talking very minor adjustments, very small changes.
So with the adjustment you're making to the Kalkwasser, you're adjusting the amount that you're putting into the tank? Is that correct?
Correct. I'm adjusting the flow rate through that peristaltic pump.
So that's where I get concerned. And the reason I get concerned is because what if, you should never have to put so much calc in to keep consumption with a calcium reactor, because that's what the calcium reactor is for. But what if you can't maintain pH, so you're putting more in, and then that's where the evaporation thing confuses me. I don't know why it confuses me so much, but every time I think about putting more RO water in, I think about salinity, always. Because I'm putting more RO in than is being evaporated. So that's where I'm concerned always.
I've never had that problem.
Okay.
Maybe I'm lucky, but my calc, I've never overran the evaporation in my tank with how much calc I'm dosing.
Okay.
I don't know if that's because I have a large surface area, but I've ran it on 3 different systems, and I've never had it overrun my evaporation. I've gotten pretty close, where I'll see like maybe it'll get an inch higher in my return chamber and then maybe an inch lower, but never got too crazy. Never really overran it. And if I did, you just back it off a tiny bit, and I find my evaporation's pretty consistent.
Yeah,
Um,
so I'm seeing them a lot of comments here, and I really love seeing the comments because all of these things that people are saying is exactly what I read about and do research on. And my issue, let me explain my issue because I've tried this before. And my tank, of course, my other tank that I tried it on was way smaller than your tank. So mine was a 55.
mm-hmm.
And yours, of course, is 600, and mine now is a 100. On the 55, when I used to try this, I couldn't fathom the amount that I needed to keep my pH up. So what I mean by that is I didn't say the right word, but I wanted to keep around 8.2, right? So I had my calcium
Mm-hmm.
reactor, and Aaron remembers this. I used to have a calcium reactor on the 55. Remember? I had a
Yeah, that 55, right?
yes, the one that's sitting behind him, the Vertex, which is a great calcium reactor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked great, but my pH was always 7.7 to 7.8. So I decided to start doing the calc method, and I would dose calc. And then I did some research, and I saw some videos of people dosing like 7 liters of calc a day. You know, like now that's a ton, of course. Um, so I started at like 2 liters. I figured 2 liters is fine, right? And my pH was still 7.7, 7.8. And I'm like, okay, I need to bump this. I kept bumping it, and I probably got up to 5, 6 liters, and my pH was maybe 8 or 8.05 at that point. And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
started to notice the salinity issue. So
Mm-hmm.
this is why I'm going over all this, and I'm curious what people are saying. I'll look at your my admin that's supposed to be looking at the comments and not playing video games is supposed
Uh,
we'll look at and see what people have some ideas also. But my issue was always once I got to that pH that I wanted, it was just too much at that point.
I'm not
You
playing
know,
video games. I'm literally reading the comments.
yeah, bullshit. So what's your thought on that,
the
Don? Because I'm curious because you're doing it and it's working for you. Um, but for let's say a smaller
the
system, that's where the issue becomes an issue.
So sure. So what I would say is what's more important is that it is a constant dose. I think that for me is part of what's made the difference. It is a constant drip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is. I don't dose it twice a day. I don't, turn a pump on and run whatever. I have it literally running at a very slow drip constantly all day long. That's why I use the high end, the recycled medical Cole Parmer peristaltic pumps, right?
Right.
It's not using a dose or anything like that just drops in every now and then. It is just a constant, very slow drip
Mm.
into the tank. And I think that is more important than anything else based on my experience.
Okay.
Um, the other thing that I do is, and I think I saw someone mention this in the comments, is I run my flow rate through my calcium reactor probably much higher than most people do. Because what that does is it allows you to keep the pH slightly higher in the reactor, but you
Right.
still get the same amount of, calcium, magnesium out of that reactor. So I think that's another piece of the puzzle. The thing I would suggest is run it, get it on a constant drip, get it as close to your evaporation rate as you can, as long as your pH isn't going high. And for me, that works. And on a constant drip. My
Okay.
tank doesn't get below right now 8.4. I'm
Wow.
running like 8.4
Oh
to
my
8.6.
goodness. I'd be lucky to. My
um,
tank right now without a calcium reactor run with a CO2 scrubber runs 8.0,
mhm.
8.05 if I'm lucky. and that's with
Well,
dosing.
the other thing I do that I think a lot of reefers overlook is I run a oh goodness, why am I'm totally going to space on the heat recovery ventilator, an HRV.
Okay.
That is constantly running that pulls in outside air into my fish room and exhausts room air. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And it runs it over. It's made by Panasonic. It was only like $300 if I remember correctly. But it's meant to keep the humidity in the room, and it's meant to keep the temperature in the air at least as much as possible. It kind of runs over a manifold. And
I think I know what you're
think
talking
that
about
helps
now.
as well.
So
Yeah.
Aaron knows my system. So there's a number of issues with my system. First of all, my system's in the garage. My entire sump, everything's in the garage, right?
Yep.
I have an air conditioner in there, so it recirculates
Mhm.
the air. That's what air conditioners do. I live in Arizona, so it's never humid in the garage. I mean, barely ever.
Mhm.
My issue, I believe, is the cars. Now, I don't think the cars aren't on in the garage, guys. But when the cars are shut off and you close the garage, I'm assuming a lot of CO2 is getting released from the cars. And I think that's what's going into the tank in some fashion. And that's what I've thought about, and it's like, that's why a CO2 scrubber works. And what's really interesting about this is, for those that don't know, my little Nano that's sitting right next to me shares the water of my garage. And that tank runs at 8.2 all day long inside the house. So it leads me to believe that it has something maybe to do with the cars.
Well, here's an interesting thing, like Corey just said, right? He said, one of the great things you can do if you're worried about that and the fact that you have a lot of CO2 in your garage, get some live plants. Put some live plants in your garage. They'll help absorb a lot of CO2
How
out
are
of the
they going
air
to
in
live in the
general.
garage, dude?
You put a grow light over the top of them. I have plants growing in my kitchen, and I just have a light over the top of them that helps them grow. But I just give them water. It's not that hard to maintain.
I know. I'm messing with you. It's a good idea. I've actually thought about it. But I'm really going to try to do the calc method after I put the calcium reactor in. I want to see how it works. I want to see what I'm going to be doing with the calcium reactor, and I might actually do a video on it, is I'm actually going to program my calcium reactor through my dose. And it's actually going to be very similar to that of what we call the automatic calcium reactor. So I'm going to be basically doing what the ACR does, and I'm going to be doing an oscillation on my calcium reactor. So it's going to dose and then not dose, and then dose, then not dose. And then I'm also going to monitor the pH inside it, and I can turn on the pH within different hours of the day. And that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. And I'm going to see how the pH reacts to that first, and then maybe do the Kalkwasser method.
It's interesting. My entire reptile room where my 225 is, I have plants that are all, it's literally circled the entire circumference of the room, plants everywhere, with an automated irrigation system that waters them.
Right.
And it works great. It keeps all the CO2 levels down in there.
Jake, of course he's growing weed in his kitchen. I mean, come on.
Whether I am or not is none of your concern. It's also legal, by the way, in Arizona to grow if I really wanted to.
That is true. It is.
It is.
So going into, I don't want to get into this very much, Don, because I want you to go over some of your other really cool automation. But you have experienced kind of a similar thing that I experienced with the ACR, and that was the customer service. And I just want to mention this to people that are watching the stream, that I'm not the only one that has experienced this. I had a lot of issues with my ACR in terms of it having just not working properly. And then, of course, him blaming me for everything. But, Don, unfortunately, you've experienced, you don't have to tell me anything, or you don't have to share all your details, but just give me just a general, hey, this is what's going on with my situation with my ACR.
Sure.
Because you also own one too, if I recall.
I do. I own a custom one that's over 4 feet tall.
Wow.
just because I wanted to have a big one for the big tank, right? One of my goals was I wanted to be able to dump an entire box of reboard into it, a 44-pound box, so I could just load it up and let it run for a long time. Again,
Holy cow.
lazy reefer.
Yeah.
So I have an ACR, but part of my concern is a couple of my friends have ACRs. They still have them. But one of the problems I've seen, and it's been pretty common, and I know he's gone through several iterations, but I'm no longer allowed in the ACR group for reasons beyond my knowledge. And so I don't get to see all the current, but there was a big problem with valves leaking inside the control modules.
Yep.
There was just all sorts of issues. My buddy had it happen twice with the second and the third and the fourth generation, valve modules, all sorts of problems. So I actually modified my ACR. I cut the recirculation line. I put in a couple of valves. I put in a T that goes out to a 1/2-inch MPT with a compression fitting, a cord grip, right? Then just stick a pH probe right in that recirc line. And I'm going to run mine like a regular calcium reactor setup. I'm going to run it with another Cole Palmer peristaltic pump, right? That runs a constant stream of water through it, and just control it via pH.
Yeah.
And it's I tell you, build quality, the actual unit itself, the PVC, the welds, all that, it's absolutely top notch. It's just I've heard way too many and seen firsthand too many horror stories, particularly with that valve module, right? I mean, I bought this calcium reactor, almost 2 years ago now, and just got all the parts for it 3-4 months ago.
That's normal.
I've driven out multiple times to Aquarium Engineering, and I'm still I've got quite a bit of equipment from him, right? I've got the 7.5 foot tall is 12-inch body skimmer. I've got I've got a 450 watt bulb UV, trying to get the parts for that now. I've got a titanium heat exchanger, which again, once you have everything like this equipment, my heat exchanger, I'd never run another tank without one. And the build quality is just top notch. For me, the problem with the ACR is the valve module.
Right.
And that's where I'm staying away from it. And I'm converting mine to run more like a traditional calcium reactor.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you just for a moment there. I have, and everyone has seen, well, not everyone, most people have seen my review of the ACR, and I plan to actually put it up once again once I have time to review it. The reactor itself, and I've always said this from the beginning, is extremely well made. It's a good product. The product itself is a very good product, okay? I recommend the product to anybody out there if they want to use it. It's the after you get it problem. That's not even a word. It's the after sales and getting the product that's the issue with that company, right? So you said you bought your stuff 2 years ago and you still don't have things. When I bought it, it was consistent. Oh, this is going to be shipped, and then never shipped. It was consistent. Oh, we're working on this. Then when I got it, I got the wrong reactor. He sent me the wrong one. So the point I'm making, guys, is that the reactor itself, and I've always said this about his products, are very well made. It's the customer service that's just, it's in one word, atrocious. I mean, that's really the bottom line. It's atrocious. But
I couldn't disagree.
But the problem also is what you just said, the valve module. So in my case, the valve module filled with water, which is what happens to a bunch of people, and it leaked. And not only did it leak, it exploded due to the pressure of the CO2 and the water inside. So what happened is the entire box exploded, and the water went all over everywhere in my garage. And the plastic pieces went all over the place and hit my car. Luckily, I had a clear bra on my car. Otherwise, it would have damaged my car. And of course, the gentleman that owns that company, said, "Well, you shouldn't have yours next to the car." I'm like, "Okay, your device shouldn't explode, dude."
His answer was, "You shouldn't have my equipment next to your car."
Yeah.
Okay, but what if it's inside the house and say my kid or someone's kid was next to it and it
Oh, well, you
exploded?
shouldn't have your kids near the fish tank. I mean, that would be the
Yeah,
excuse.
right. Shouldn't have your kids near enjoying the beauty of your fish tank, right?
So, in any regards, that happened. It's happened to multiple people. I'm not the first one to happen to. And I'm not gonna go into this. I don't want the whole stream to be about that. But just guys, if you're really interested in the products that he sells, just really do your research. I mean, seriously. And Don can probably say the same thing. Do your research. Know what you're getting into before you get into it. Know that you're going to be waiting. You have to be a very, very patient person if you're going to buy product from that person. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay.
Yes.
So Don, do you have the way? I didn't ask you before. Do you have a way of showing us some of your stuff? I don't know if you have a portable system going on. I never asked.
I mean, I got my phone. I guess I could join with that link you sent me on there.
Yeah, see what you can do. Because I really would love to see this 7 foot tall skimmer. I think everyone wants to see that.
Let me see if I can get in here. Just a second. Open in Safari.
Do you have the bottle switcher? Someone asked. I love how people are asking to buy more stuff from the company. It's like, we just told you not to, but whatever, dude.
So I do not have the bottle switcher. I considered it at one point, but
Alfredo Rios Duas. I probably am totally not saying your name right, and I'm really sorry. I have seen the Pacific Sun unit, actually. I was interested in doing some more research. I haven't actually looked into it much because I just bought a Geo, but I do plan to look at it. Absolutely. Let's see. Maybe the Reef bot has something to do with it. Oh, I think we lost you. I think we lost you, Don.
Yeah, he went. His mic got muted.
Yeah, we lost him. We lost at least his volume. I'm taking a look at some of the comments here. Let's see. Any questions? Is Doctor a daddy yet? Nope, not a daddy yet.
Nope, I answered.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of Hatfields. I was actually thinking of not parking my cars in the garage and seeing if it has an effect. In Arizona, it's a lot easier. Let's see. We'll get him back. I know he'll get it working. Still says guest has muted themselves on my end here, Don.
Oh, Don, you might have to go over to the eCam thing and you'll see where you can mute it. You might have to just click on mute.
Guys, he does not look anything like Napoleon Dynamite, by the way.
Who?
You.
Who said that?
I don't know. People are saying you look like Napoleon Dynamite, and I'm like, you don't look anything
I don't
like
look like
Napoleon Dynamite.
I mean, vote for Pedro, but I don't look like vote. You know.
Yeah, Don, we don't hear you, buddy.
So. My apologies. You should now.
Oh, we hear you now.
There you go.
Yep. My apologies on that. My headset kept trying to connect to my phone.
Oh, there you are. Don's
all
iPhone.
Right, here we go. There we go. Now I got something. I'm gonna switch over there.
All right, I got you.
You want to go full screen for him?
No, this should be fine.
All right. Give me just a minute.
All right, show us some cool stuff, dude.
Yeah, you should drop my screen for a moment.
Oh, that'll definitely be a good idea. Let me. Hold on a
Yeah, just
second.
do that.
All
Drop mine.
right.
Bye bye.
All righty here.
Can't hear you anymore,
Am I
by
still
the
coming
way.
through audio?
I can hear you just fine, Don, but once we remove Desert Reef from the equation, we don't hear him anymore on purpose.
All right. I'm not sure how laggy the video is.
Unfortunately,
Kind of
Don, you've
start
been
out
kind
here.
of laggy the whole stream, I think, but it's okay.
I'm not sure what's going on there. So here's my sump. This is a from Aquarium Engineering as well.
Okay.
This is a 4x4 PVC sump.
Wow.
I keep rock and a couple of fish down there that aren't very friendly. I've got another sump over here, and it looks like video's taking the time to catch up here.
Yeah, is there a way you could do vertical for us? People are wanting to do full screen, so I'm gonna switch you over to
Oh
full
yeah, I
screen.
can go
There you
like this
go.
here.
Perfect. There you go, Lee.
There we go.
You ask, I do.
So yeah, so this is my other sump. This is the sump to the frag tank. I'm still in build mode, so excuse all the craziness.
It's okay.
But this is the sump to the frag tank, and then you'll have to give me just a second because, believe it or not, the skimmer's actually on the other side
Oh boy.
of the basement.
Holy goodness.
It's plumbed. Yeah, I got a lot going on. I'm serious build mode. We're also reconstructing our basement at this moment. So, so here we go. Skimmer's actually over here by the RO system. So there's the sump from the other side, right?
Oh boy.
And did my lag get better, or is it just me? And then
I don't know. Yeah, can you go
here's
widescreen again for us? It's hard to
Yeah.
see some of the stuff. There you go. Holy cow.
So this
Jesus,
is a
look
skimmer.
how tall
It goes all the way up to my ceiling.
Here,
all the way.
if you don't mind, step back so we can really get a good look at this thing.
I will certainly try. There's not a
Lot
ton
of
of
room.
room. My furnace is in the way.
Yeah,
If I go
okay.
vertical, it should
Oh,
help.
that's better. Holy cow, guys. Look at that thing.
Jesus Christ. Look how long
But
your
let me
auto
tell you.
drain tube is.
Holy cow.
So it's going into a bucket at the moment. But yeah, this thing is a monster. And it just so happened to the way my basement laid out, right, that this was the best place to put it. And with the height, I was really limited on locations. So it's, there's all my electrical, there's my big RO system again. Again, that's part of my lazy reefer, right? I run the
insane.
3-stage DI, and I bought the 20-inch big blue canisters for my DI resin, the cation, anion, and then mixed bed.
And you probably never touched those.
Yeah. And to be honest, I'm making 200 gallons of water, right, at a time.
Jeez.
Someone
asked.
That
go ahead. I'm sorry.
when you're making that much water and you're doing that a couple times a month, you burn through DI resin, right?
You would think.
So, all right.
So my question was, or there's a number of questions here.
Sure.
Let's see. Let me go back. How many gallons is it rated for? I think Matt asked. I don't know if there's even a way to know that.
Yeah. So, this is lagging bad. I do not know why. I'm gonna hang up from my phone.
You're in the basement. Yeah, that's fine. I'll switch you over.
Yep.
Now should be coming through.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually have an access point 6 feet above my head, but it's I don't know what's going on. But anyway, So, I mean, technically it could go upwards of, 2,000, 2,500 gallons pretty easily. But the aquarium engineering design is actually really great in that it's super adjustable. And I ran this same skimmer on my 400 gallon system, right? This
Right.
system's about 750, maybe 800 gallons of water total, if you consider actual water volume. But the skimmer is extremely adjustable. You can run it if you got a ton of organics. You can lower the water level very easily, or if you don't have it as much, you just crank it up a little bit farther in the neck, and it still runs just as stable.
Yeah, so I have a question on that actually. From my understanding, and forgive me if I'm mistaken, is you actually want a wider skimmer for a larger tank. Am I mistaken? That seems like a really tall. What's the reasoning for being so tall?
So my experience has actually been my other skimmer was about 7 feet tall, but it was about a 6-inch diameter tube.
Okay.
And my experience has always been that the longer contact time that the vertical distance gives for the bubbles, it actually pulls out more junk.
Interesting.
That's been my experience. The bigger, fatter works really well when you're trying to run like a traditional, skimmer that's got, like a Bubble King or just something that's got some sort of like a mesh wheel or a mesh wheel. I'm just dated myself, didn't I? So those skimmers, they need to have that big fat body because their water to air ratio is just chucking in a ton of air. This, I run it runs off of an external air pump. An Elita air pump actually feeds air into the skimmer. But for that big body, it's only like, I think 60 or 70 SCFH. It's more about, it's a countercurrent design. So the water comes in the top and pushes down against the water that's coming up from the recirc. That drains out.
I see.
And so what it does is it actually pushes those bubbles down and gives you a really long contact time for that bubble to pick up organics out of the water.
I see how it works. So Harkins Aquatics said it's a shame you don't have the cup washer on it. Is that something that you've been interested in doing, or is it something Bill said he's going to give you and never gave you?
So I actually do have it. It's just not hooked up at the moment.
Oh, okay.
My skimmer, it actually hasn't needed it too much. And I did run it before on my old system. It's just when I moved the skimmer, I never hooked it back up. So
and
it's coming. It will be.
Of course, people are asking, you don't have to tell us, but people are asking the cost of something like that. You can give us maybe a range if you'd like.
You're probably looking at, $2,000 to $3,000.
Wow. That's really interesting because the Royal Exclusive is $2,000, and it's probably a quarter of the size of that thing.
Right. Yeah. So it's the thing about it is it's simple, right? It's just a great big PVC tube. It runs a reflow dart, the motor, and it's a Orca, basically the same pump that they ran on their skimmers years ago. It's the same thing. Aquarium Engineering just sent me a new needle wheel that I'm supposed to be trying out. But this one, for some reason, some of the newer dart pumps, they've had problems with the seals. So I haven't wanted to mess with it because my seal's not leaking. So
yeah.
I'm gonna wait till my seal starts leaking, then I'll mess with it. But yeah, for me, Harkins Aquatics. Yeah, for me, it's contact time. That's if you talk to guys at like Life Reef, MTC, Marine Technical Concepts, he's no longer in business. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But my other skimmer before this one was a dual Mazzi Venturi skimmer.
Wow.
That was about 7 feet tall. again, contact time for the win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really handy.
So a couple
I
questions.
love the way it works.
Did he make that skimmer? No, he didn't make it. Aquarium Engineering made that. Brian Bench asked, how many gallons total system water are you doing roughly?
So if I take out, I mean, so that, you know, the tank is 600, the sump could technically hold about 240. The other sump's about 100 and the frag tank's about 80. But if you take out rock volume and, you know, try to, you know, give a real water number, I'd say it's probably 800 gallons.
Wow.
Or so.
I love Brock B's comment, but the Royal exclusive is delivered after you pay for it. That's correct.
that's true. That's true.
Brock, you have a really good point. You spend $2,000 and you actually get the product. Anyway.
Yes.
Hey, Lucas works for a law firm building structure. Oh, law firm building. Sorry, I thought he said he worked for a law firm. I was like, hey. Okay. Anyway, you'll spend about. Yeah, you're right. Battle said you'll spend about $1,600 just to get the material for that. Yeah, I would. I would agree. Oh, I got a thumbs down for that.
That tube is half-inch thick PVC, right? The riser tube. It's no joke.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I said, we've talked about some of the issues, but let me tell you, the build quality on this stuff is top notch.
Yeah.
And it's not a fancy design, right? It's really not. It's a big pump with a big needle wheel that's using air injection, and when you get that tall, you just get contact time. You know, I run a Barracuda basically wide open through it, right?
Aren't those really loud, those pumps?
So when I say Barracuda, it's not actually a Barracuda. So I'm a little crazy. I actually have a variable frequency drive. I actually drive it with a 3-phase motor, with a phase inverter in front of it, so it's adjustable.
Oh boy.
And and then I get the pump heads directly from MDM. MDM is the company that kind of spawned Reflow, if you will. Okay. The guy, I believe, used to work for them, but their pump heads are just top notch. And when I combine that with a 3-phase motor, the 3-phase motors, in my experience, are much quieter, and I can dial it down a bit. You know, I can drive it down to 53 or 52 hertz.
Every single one of those pumps I've ever purchased, and I've bought Reflows, I've bought the Walkies, I've had tons of them over the last 30 years. So loud. So the fact that you've been able to quiet it is quite amazing.
Yeah, and the big thing is like I said, it's the 3-phase motor. 3-phase motors, in my experience, are just quieter. And it does a great job.
But then again, unless I'm mistaken, you're not sleeping next to the tank. I mean, the problem in my house is my tank is wide open where everyone congregates, so it would drive me nuts. These pumps were so loud. And I had to weather seal and sounds. Ask Aaron. I had to weather seal and sound seal all of my stuff because it was so loud.
Oh, the tank behind me is weather sealed and sound sealed and everything.
Yeah.
And see, mine's all behind a wall.
Right.
Yeah. That for me, that's a big difference. For me, loud would be loud in my living room versus loud behind a wall in my fish room in my basement are two different things.
But see, again, you have a wall. I have a wall also, but my tank is inside the wall, so I can hear everything from the garage usually. So I try to keep it as quiet as I can. Let's see. How long did it take to get? I'm curious also. I think he's asking about the skimmer. So from the day you sent him money, how long did it take to get?
That was, so I bought the ACR and the skimmer at the same time. And I probably took me 6 months first go around to get that. And I actually got all the pieces to the skimmer right away. And then
What's
the
right
ACR
away?
took me another. Well, when I at that 6 month mark.
6
And I went
months
to pick
right
everything
away,
up.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
That's
again, right away
yeah,
in that term, I would say yes. 6 months is about right away.
yeah. And
So,
when I mean right away, it's I got it all at the first time I picked everything up. I didn't have to make 6 trips.
oh well, that's good. So, producer Reef had a
Yeah,
good question, and he's asking where all your automation is. So, you have a
sure.
ton of Apex stuff, but I didn't
Yeah.
see any of it. So, where is it in your system? I was curious. Is it underneath the tank somewhere?
No. So I keep everything mounted up on the up high, away from water. I think that's one of the key mistakes a lot of people make with Apex gear is it's good gear, but if it gets moist at all, it spells disaster, right? I've had some problems
I'm
with some
really
energy
glad.
bars.
I'm really, really glad you mentioned that. And I believe Mark is on our stream too. Mark S. He's one of my moderators, but he mentioned this to someone on the Facebook group. You guys have to understand that Apex product. I've always loved Apex product, and I know Don loves Apex product. But if you're dumping it in water, or you're putting it like right next to your tank, it's not. It's an electrical piece of equipment. It's not going to work. It's going to have problems. That's what's going to happen. And
Yep.
unfortunately, I see this a lot. I'm sure you do too, Don. A lot of people mount their power bars parallel to their sump at the same exact level. So any water splashing or any evaporation is going to get into those outlets, and that's going to cause all
Hmm.
kinds of problems. Um, there's Hydros and there's other companies that are like, hey, you can put my stuff next to your sump. Yes, but I'm going to do some testing, but I'm pretty sure that stuff wouldn't last very long either if it was next to water. I really don't think
Hold
so.
on, hold on.
You're not
I can
allowed to say
actually
anything.
attest it. No, but I can attest to that with the Reef bot because I had that Reef bot literally sitting on the floor
You've never had
inside
a reef bot.
or not Reef bot. Sorry, the Hydros. I apologize. The Hydros. I had the Hydros sitting right there on the ground in my thing, covered in salt creep and everything. It still worked. Still was running fine.
How long did you have the Hydros for?
4 months,
4 months?
5 months.
So what do you think after about 5 years how that thing's gonna do?
Well, I mean, okay. Well, as soon as I buy it back from
Yeah.
you when you're
Okay.
done testing it.
Anyway. So I'm glad Don mentioned that because unfortunately I get a lot of messages from people, hey, my PM1 or hey, my EB832 just stopped working. What can I do? And I'm like, show me a picture of it. And then of course, it's literally 2 inches away from their sump. And I'm like, well, there's a good chance you got some, humidity, or not humidity, I guess is not the right word, but you got some evaporation somehow into the electrical outlet. I don't know how, but something happened.
When you have a high humidity environment like you have under a stand, right? In particular, it's not hard to get condensation on the electronics in there. And the
Condensation.
no aquarium company.
That's the right word.
It doesn't take much. And so the price, I mean, could they do it? Sure. Could they seal it better? Absolutely. But I think we kind of touched on this a little bit last week. Neptune is always very conscious about price point. And could they build a better product? Could they build it more sealed? Absolutely. But it becomes a game of good enough. And it's not their fault. It's just the reality of the market, right? Would we all pay $500 for a fully sealed power bar, or would we rather pay $250 for one that's going to work 99% of the time?
Right.
I think most of us probably know that answer.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of reefers. A lot of reefers, and I've said this before in my streams. That's why I give away stuff, because I think it's important that people have the opportunity to have good products and things that work. That's why I give that opportunity to people. But if you cheap out on fish tank equipment, you're going to have more problems. It's just what's going to happen. It's going to happen no matter what. If you go buy some Chinese thing that has all kinds of issues and expect it to last more than a year, you're just lucky if it does, you know? And
Yep.
a lot of people want the most for the least amount of money. And I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, would you rather spend $1,000 on a reef bot that breaks constantly, or would you rather spend $1,300 on a product that's not going to break constantly? That's the decision that you have to make when you're looking at things. And I don't know. I never talked to you about the reef bot now that I think about it. But when it comes to reefing, and I've said this before, and Aaron, I'm sure agrees with me. If you're looking at 2 or 3 different products and the price point is, $20, $30 difference between all of them, get the most expensive one. That's what I think every single time. But if you're looking at
down
something,
to the single rule, you get what you pay for.
yes, in this hobby, it's apparent.
Unless it's reef bot. Unless it's reef bot,
yeah.
then
But
you're paying for
if you're
garbage.
looking at 3 or 4 different things and the difference is $200 between them, then yeah, you're gonna have to understand that you're gonna lose a little bit if you get the cheaper product at that point. Like you said with the Apex, Neptune's not going to sell a $500, $600, $700 product and then compare it to another $700 product and make, what am I trying to say? They're not gonna make a product that is inferior to keep up with another product just because they want to cheap out on it. They're going to always put quality products out there, but if you abuse them and dump them in water, then yeah, I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry. Let's see.
So producer Reef, I agree more companies should seal their equipment, but the reality is most of the or all the major aquarium controller companies don't. So part of this also comes down to competition, right? If company A isn't doing it, why would company B do it? And why would company C do it? And it's frustrating for us, the consumer, right? Mm-hmm. But if their competition isn't doing it, why would I spend the extra money to do that? When it's going to make mine be a cost premium over theirs, and now I lose because most of the time it's not a problem that it's close to the equipment, but it's that one time that it gets moist or wet and condensation happens. And but if it were happening 90% of the time, then I'm sure that more aquarium controller companies would be sealing their equipment. Right. But it's not, and so it's a roll of the dice, right?
Well,
and again, we're not a huge market. We like to think we are, but we're not.
Trust me, we're not, and I'll tell you why I know this. There's one specific reason I know this. If you guys are into cars like I am, I mean, I'm really into cars, and I belong to multiple different YouTube channels. Their YouTube subscribers are in the hundreds of thousands, and it's just about a car. It's just about putting an exhaust on a car, and it's got 40,000 views. And then you look at Bulk Reef Supply, who I think has 100-something thousand subscribers. So that'll give you a good example of how small we are comparatively. And you guys know I've been going into this flight simulator thing, right? I love flight simulation now. So go online and look at the flight simulation community. There are just like I saw a guy that has 1 million subscribers, and all he does is fly planes all day. So it's ridiculous. Yeah. I do want to. We're getting at about an hour, but I did want to go into a few other little things. Aaron got me distracted as he always does.
That's my job.
The Hydros, by the way, is coming out with TDS meters for their product. I think that's awesome. And I encourage Neptune to do this. And I've encouraged them. I don't know how many times I talked to Terrence about this. Guys, whoever's watching out there, we need to start a petition and get TDS meters made by Neptune. Imagine how
I've been
great that would be.
begging for this for years.
Imagine how great that would be to get an alert when your DI is consumed, right? Or hell, when your membrane is defective, you would know when you need to get a new one. You would also know that you're putting in high TDS water into your tank, and get an
Mhm.
alert. This is huge, and I congratulate CoralView for doing this. I think it's a huge step in the right direction, and I congratulate them, and I encourage other people to do this. GHL and specifically Neptune, because I have a Neptune. Um, but I did want to, before we go, our conversation today was supposed to be about lazy reefer. So you have a lot of stuff. I noticed you've put a lot of money into your tank. So the big question on everyone's mind is, where's the reef bot? And why don't you have a
Where's
reef bot?
where's
And
the
how
reef
do you
bot? And why
and
don't
how do you test your water if you're, from what you told me earlier, you're not big into testing yourself or manually doing things. So everyone wants to know.
so for the big three, which really I only care about one. We all know what we care about. We care about
Yeah.
alkalinity on a day. I've got a Trident. Um, I just recently had it replaced. I had, when I shut it down, just to be very frank, I had an issue. Even though I flushed all the lines with RODI, did everything I could, it appears that some salt actually solidified in the lines.
Oh boy.
And it was all messed up. So I went through support and everything, got it all taken care of. It's all fixed up. But it just works. I don't trust it for like exact numbers. I don't dose based off of it. But and I still manually test once a month with my Hanometer. But I just I trust that Trident to let me know that my trends are where they need to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the Trident is trending down, oh well, then I need to bump things up. If it's trending up, I need to slow things down. Other than that, I'm testing. I'm using Hanometers for everything I can. Pretty much the only other thing I ever test is phosphate. I'll check nitrate every now and then, but my experience has been, once things get stabilized, I don't chase numbers too much.
Mm-hmm.
I like to let the tank tell me what's going on. And if I see corals losing color, oh, something's probably not right. I have the luxury where I sit in front of my tank for 8 to 10 hours a day while I work. I literally sit directly right over there. So I find my eyes are my best test kit.
Yeah.
And if things don't look right, I'm starting to get weird algae, right? But you can't see alkalinity, you can't see those things. So I use the Trident for that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I looked at a Reef bot and it just wasn't. Watched your stuff and seen other things out there, and it just wasn't worth it for me.
Yeah. I wish I didn't do it either. But you have a really good point, Don, and I wish more people would say that as well. Is your eyes sometimes can be your test kit. Absolutely. My concern with that sometimes, and I know a lot of people love to just test and love to, know what's going on with their water because it's part of the hobby. It's fun for some people.
I love being mad scientist.
Yeah, and also in that same breath, that's kind of what the Reef bot does for you. Is it's a cool gadget to have, as part of your arsenal of being a lazy reefer. It's like, hey, I don't have to do anything. However, maybe I'm mistaken in this statement. I have found that Acropora, some really difficult Acropora, can die very quickly due to phosphate changes. And I agree with you. I totally agree. Your eyes can be your test kit. But what's just a really brief statement on what I'm saying? I have found that if I don't test my phosphate every week, there's been times where my phosphate might go up and I don't know, and an Acropora will die, just completely die. So I try to avoid that at all costs, especially if it's a high-end, expensive Acropora. So I agree with you to a point, but I also do agree that a lot of people, I don't want people to think, oh, we don't have to test water anymore. No. I want people to know
I don't.
that you should still be
Yeah.
testing. And having a reef bot, soon to be a Mastertronic, hopefully, will tell me my phosphate. And the good thing about a reef bot or Mastertronic is you can test phosphate every day. And I do test phosphate every day, and it lasts me about a month of reagent, which is really good, actually. It's really not that expensive. So
Before this tank, I actually had problems keeping my phosphates up. That's been a pretty common theme in a lot of my tanks. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing differently. But if I could get it up to 0.06 in my other tanks, I was doing great. Now this tank, I'm fighting phosphate a little bit, just to be, again, sharing the ugly. I'm at 0.55 right now. And I'm going to be dosing lanthanum chloride. Yeah, I'm going to be dosing lanthanum chloride here pretty soon. But what that's from, I'm 99% sure, is I've got rock in my sump that I used in a quarantine system to treat with chloric and phosphate. And CP, right there in the name, phosphate. It does it. So that rock absorbs it. So I just need to drip lanthanum chloride for a while to start pulling leach that phosphate back out of that rock. And I think I'll be good to go.
Yeah, for me, I used to have that issue too. I used to have low nutrients. Like I couldn't get them up. And what I did to get them up is start feeding pellets. Once I started feeding pellets to all my fish, never had a problem again. Seriously. That's what I did.
Yeah. Well, and I feed quite a bit. I mean, I've got, I don't know if you can see or not off to the edge there. I've got, that's a 1-inch PVC pipe with 6 sheets of nori wrapped around it.
Nice.
I got a bunch of big tangs, and so I feed a lot, and they like to graze all day.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But even that wasn't adding a ton. I've got some, New Life Spectrum and things like that.
Yeah, nori's not going to do it. You got to get. I have always had success with pellets. If I need to keep up with stuff, I feed pellets and auto feeders, and that seems to always do the trick to keep my nutrients kind of where I need them.
Yeah.
So let's see, Lucas. I have never had any success with Neophos. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I have never had any success with that. I don't know why, but I've never had any success with it. All right, so we got about an hour and 15. I'm gonna get this going here. We got a contest today, and oh boy, people are gonna be mad. Let's see. We only had 20 people enter. We need to have 25 to give away a gift card, guys. How many people did we have on the stream? We didn't have a lot of people.
We had 42 at one point, but then we dropped down to 35, and then we came back up. Problem is that the contest already ended, didn't it? Didn't it stop allowing people to enter?
It did. But I have to abide by the rules. We didn't get enough people in here. Let's see. Can I sell you some nitrates from my tank? Well, yeah. We didn't have enough people enter, so unfortunately we can't give away anything today. We did give away a more expensive gift card last week, so that was pretty good. And on top of it, no offense to Don, but we have a really cool guest coming in, and when he comes in, we're giving away an Apex. So I got some stuff coming on that's going to be great.
Exciting.
Let's see. Any other questions? Anybody have any questions for Don before we get going here, guys? I do love to see people coming into the stream that don't just come in for the gift cards or for the giveaways. It's interesting because last week or the following week, I didn't tell anybody we're not having I'm having trouble speaking. A giveaway, and no joke, there was probably 70 people in here, and then all of a sudden when I said there's no giveaway, it dropped to like 30.
It did.
Ouch.
People are just something special about people. New fan in Chandler, nice. Love to see more Arizona people in here. Well, here comes all the downvotes. Watch. No giveaway. Boo.
Hold on. Where's my downvote? Let me get in there real quick.
But Don, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. I think a lot of people learned a lot of great things today. Again, these streams are supposed to help people, not give away shit. So thank you so much, Don. I really appreciate you coming on. You have some really cool stuff going on. Seems like you really know your stuff in the hobby, and
I love it.
I will give them a little teaser that both of us are in NSI. Just saying, just not saying anything else. But we're both in NSI. So.
Oh man, I forgot to tell him. So I went outside today and I looked up and I saw that beautiful sky.
Good for you. That's wonderful.
It was gorgeous.
It was a nice day. It's. Well, we'll have to talk. Maybe do this again sometime. Talk a little more automation. We talked a lot of equipment, but
I know
didn't get to talk a whole lot about some of the other fun little tricks I'm doing. So maybe we'll do it again.
I know it's because of Aaron. Aaron loves to just distract us. That's what he does.
Hey, that's that's the whole point, right?
Thank you
vote for me.
Most of my downvotes come for you.
Oh, that's messed up. Come on.
So guys, thank you everybody that watched today. A lot of the regulars, which of course I love you guys that come on every week. We got some really cool stuff coming on. We got some really great giveaways coming also. I got a bunch of stuff we're giving away. I also have a Hydros that I might be giving away that belongs to Aaron. So guys, if you guys want a Hydros.
Excuse me. Hold on a second.
Letting you know it's coming soon.
Wait a minute. You're not doing that to me. My Hydros.
Yeah, we'll have more automation. I know we got kind of carried away with other stuff. I was really intrigued by your skimmer and a few other things I wanted to see, Don. But we'll get into some automation, definitely. I know you have a lot of it, and I kind of just glanced through it. So what can you do? Every stream's different. So.
Oh, good.
Just a good, fun one.
All right, guys.
My favorite fish is an Achilles tang, by the way. Somebody asked it. My favorite is Achilles.
I also have an Achilles tang, and I love it too. The Achilles tang is awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And hopefully next time I have you on, we'll speak more automation, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, see you guys.